this week's episode, Austin and Tim travel back in time to November 5th, 1955, having a 7-movie marathon, watching Kirk Douglas in an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey called Ulysses, Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief, Stanley Donen's energetic and problematic musical Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, the non-musical Three Coins in the Fountain, the widescreen phenomenon CINERAMA Holiday, Janet Leigh and Jack Lemmon in the dance-orific My Sister Eileen, and Audie Murphy in his autobiographical World War II film To Hell and Back. Wonderful singing, breathtaking dance numbers, heart-pounding action, nail-biting suspense, sweeping romance, and sweeping landscapes, technical difficulties, and some not very okay kidnapping. This is all coming up next here on Film Geek Time Machine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Geek Time Machine. I'm your host, Austin Kennedy.
Timothy Kaiser!
Ooh, the other Timothy this time.
I've said that numerous times.
You have.
I surprise you
You
every
do.
time when I say, I'm sorry, Timothy John Kaiser.
Oh, thank you.
Named after my grandfather, Velmer Kaiser. Doesn't make sense.
I'm Austin Charles Kennedy.
Charles.
That's my dad's name. Anyways, hello, welcome. This is the podcast where I have a time machine, and I go back in time, and I bring Tim with me, right?
Yes. I've been kidnapped.
You've been kidnapped.
Numerous times to watch movies with you.
Yeah, and what I like to do, because I'm a film geek, I want to go back in time to see movies. I usually pick random dates, and then what me and Tim will do, we'll pick each 3 or 4 movies, and then we'll go and see them in a 6 or sometimes, like this episode, 7-movie marathon, and then we'll come back, and then we get on the computer and talk about it. That's what we do.
And thanks for describing podcasting.
And yeah, so this time
we're 2 white middle-aged men. We're podcasters.
Yay!
Weird.
So November 5th, 1955, and my brother came up with the idea for it because of Back to the Future.
Because we're morons.
Because we should have thought of that for the first season. But anyways, November 5th, 1955, that's the day that Doc Brown says that he developed the idea for time travel. It's not the day it's not the week of the dance. That would be the next Saturday.
I think he says he invented time travel.
Yeah, because he thought of the flux capacitor.
Right,
You got the image.
that
Because he was on the toilet and he fell, right?
The day of the dance
would be the next Saturday.
Which was like 11:04 at night when the lightning struck or something.
Yeah, so it'd be like so that would be November 12th then. Probably would be the next. Go back.
Kind
A
of hard
lot
to
of the
go to
same
2015.
movies though, but
can't go to 2015.
We could go to 2015, but
we can, but we're just not going to tell you movies we saw because
it's boring.
Because they suck.
They seem like yesterday.
Because all the movies in 2015 were garbage.
Right. Well, part of the reason, and I don't know if I've gotten this too much, but part of the reason why I really want to also do this podcast is just I'm a big film geek, and I just became really in the past 10 years pretty disenchanted with most modern cinema. Not saying that there's not good movies. There's plenty of good movies coming out, but I'm just more interested in watching older films. I'm just getting really kind of burnt out of the whole. Not saying that they're all bad, but I'm getting tired of the whole superhero thing.
Has this podcast experience taught you the lesson that when you go back in time, they're also mostly bad?
No, I don't think so. No.
Out there.
No.
We actually even kind of try to pick ones that we think are going to be good.
You try to.
And then periodically, that one's real sucks.
When we went to 1960, there's only one I didn't like. That's 5 movies. That's good movies.
Yeah, I think I like that one.
Anyways, so yeah, this time we did pick 7 movies, but before we go into what we picked, let's talk about the time period that was out. So I have the little Billboard chart. So it doesn't really have like the top 50 of the week. It just has the number 1 of the week, which would be Autumn Leaves by Roger Williams, which is an instrumental.
I don't think Marty listened to that even once.
Love is a Many Splendored Thing was very popular. The Yellow Rose of Texas. But look, the next month would have 16 Tons, and I know that song. 16
Tons. But those are not like thematic to the Back to the Future thing.
And it was...
They have to have the rock and the rolls.
Well, the Rock Around the Clock about 2 months ago was number 1.
Yes.
So So that was still probably around.
For a long time. Holy,
yeah.
For 2 solid months.
So that rock and roll was just kind of starting like this year, pretty much, like just right now. So we're just kind of on the cusp of that. Otherwise, it was kind of a lot of boring music that was out at the time.
Yellow Rose Texas is a great song. It's just
fine.
not one that we think of that for Back to the Future.
No. Yeah, well, the song that we were talking about was the first song you hear when he goes back in time when he's in Hill Valley is Mr. Sandman, and that's not on here.
I mean, we don't know. We can't see past like the top 3, so we really don't know how well it did.
No, and then the popular television shows I Love Lucy. The $64,000 question was the number 1 of this television season.
Then there was a scandal.
Oh, yes, there was. Yes.
There's a movie about that.
Quiz show.
If we travel through time, we might end up seeing.
Oh, yeah, quiz show, yeah. The Ed Sullivan Show, Disneyland Show, Jack Benny. So a lot of variety shows. You Bet Your Life. Dragnet was on there. The Red Skelton
Dragnet
Show.
was around in 55?
Yeah.
That's right. It was around.
I think 50.
I think it went away for a while. Then it came back in the 60s.
Yeah. It did come back in the 60s, yes. Honeymooners, Perry Como Show, Adventures of Robin Hood.
Well, that's actually lower than I thought.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the TV shows back then. So now I'm going to pull up the newspaper of November 5th, 1955, and tell you what all the other films that were out that we didn't see. So one of them that I kind of still wish I would have picked it was William Wyler's The Desperate Hours. I like director William Wyler, and I love Humphrey Bogart, so it's a thriller. It was remade in 1990 with Anthony Hopkins and Mickey Rourke, which I didn't like. It was the director of The Deer Hunter that did it, which is weird.
You didn't like it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you haven't seen this version?
No, I want to. I actually really want to.
I'm sure it exists.
Man with the Gun, Robert Mitchum. Trial with Glenn Ford, another Glenn Ford movie. Tomorrow is Too Late.
Is that the name of the song?
That's the name of the
movie, I mean?
It's the name of the movie, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it's an Italian film. Charlton Heston in Private War of Major Benson. The Left Hand of God, another Bogart movie.
There's a couple of Left Hand of God ads in there.
Let's see. Gentlemen Marry Brunettes, which was the unofficial follow-up to Gentlemen for Blondes. Also starring Jane Russell, but does not have Marilyn Monroe.
Even though they both got married at the end of that movie.
Right. Well, they're different characters, I believe, in this movie. Okay. Country Girl, which was nominated for Best Picture in 1954. To Paris with Love, we could have saw another Alec Guinness movie.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Seven Little Foys with Bob Hope. The Sheep Has Five Legs, starring Fernando.
That was weird. We looked it up, if I remember.
Yeah.
We decided it was on the list of possibles. We never saw it, though.
Battle Taxi, which is just a fun name for the movie.
Battle Taxi.
Reap the Wild Wind.
That sounds like it's from the 90s and it's some weird post-apocalyptic fun movie. But I'm sure it's just something about a cab driver trying
the Egyptian,
to make money.
Pete Kelly's Blues, we would have had Jack Webb, but another Janet Leigh film.
Okay.
Well, Not as a Stranger, another Robert Mitchum.
There's a lot, because movies were all over the place.
Blackboard Jungle, which I've actually never seen. That's the Sidney Poitier.
Too bad. You're never going to see it.
Yeah. We'll go back in time.
Never! I'm putting my foot down, Austin.
So the movies that we did pick, we worked it out where we're going to be seeing, the first one was at 11 a.m. and the last one was a midnight screening. So we got to see 7 movies when we went back in time.
Thanks, Austin.
To November 5th, 1955.
7 movies. It was so much fun.
7 movies. The first one we picked was Ulysses, which was based off of Homer's The Odyssey.
Yep.
And
it's not the Ulysses you think it is.
It's Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not Ulysses. It is Ulysses, but it's Odysseus.
Yeah.
It's the Latin Odysseus.
Yes. And then we did Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. These next 2 movies it was a double feature. They were both nominated in 1954 for Best Picture.
Oh, really?
7 Brides for Seven Brothers and 3 Coins in a Fountain.
I think you had mentioned that they were like a double feature musical, and then the second was not a musical.
Well, get into that. Yeah, I thought it was too, actually. And then we saw Cinerama Holiday. So this was the latest craze, which we'll get into. I'll explain what Cinerama is. Travel log documentary. And then the last 2 movies were My Sister Eileen with Jack Lemmon in a supporting role. The last movie we saw was the one that Tim was pretty adamant about watching, which was Audie Murphy to Hell and Back, which is the true story of Audie Murphy's life, of him in World War II.
Starring Audie Murphy.
Starring himself, yeah. So that was...
Had you never seen it?
I've never seen it. I knew about it, but I just never got around to seeing it.
Either.
The only 2 that I saw were To Catch a Thief and 7 Brides. Those are the 2 that I've seen before.
The To Hell and Back was like Universal's, I think it was Universal. RKO, I guess, maybe.
It was RKO. Well, no, that was the RKO Theater.
Okay, it was...
I don't know what it was.
I think it was Universal. It was their biggest, most profitable picture until Jaws 20 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
It was Universal, yes. Universal Pictures. Okay, so our first movie is Ulysses. And this was an Italian production, meaning it was mostly dubbed, or it was all dubbed. Kirk Douglas and Anthony Quinn provided their own voices, but everyone else was dubbed by someone else.
But they were still even dubbed afterward, and you could tell.
Right.
There was like...
Right, but it was their own voices, though.
I assume there were microphones there, and there is probably an Italian version of this movie.
Yeah, there is. There is an Italian version.
Here in the U.S., it was the dubbed version.
And I'm not sure how they did it, because I know when they started doing the Italian Westerns in the 60s, they would just shoot without sync sound. And then they would just redub anyways. They wouldn't even record the dialogue. I mean, they would have them say their stuff, but it was non-sync sound.
It makes sense to do that because they're going to end up doing that for the English audiences anyway.
But I don't know if they did that. But I don't know if they did that with this movie or not. Anyway, so yeah, this is very loosely based on Homer's Odyssey. Yeah, so it kind of starts off where you see Ulysses' young wife, who is, all these suitors are trying to woo her because Ulysses has been gone for a few years now.
At this point, I don't know.
Was it several years? I don't know how many years.
In the Odyssey, 20.
Okay.
Long ass time.
She does not want to get married, but she's kind of like under the pressure. She's like, I guess I'm going to.
She still believes her husband is alive and coming back.
Yeah.
He's been gone for 20 years, and he basically went across the street to fight a war.
Yeah.
He just got on the Mediterranean Sea and then went somewhere, went to Troy, and then never came back. She goes, he's fine.
Right.
So fine.
They kind of had the story guy like tell a tale of him, and you get to see the Trojan horse and all that stuff in flashbacks. But then you see him washed up on shore in some island, and this princess Nausicaa finds him, falls in love with him, and says, "Hey, let's get married." And he gets the approval of the parents and everything, the king and queen. Right before he's going to get married, he flashbacks pretty much what happened in the past 20 years.
He has full-blown amnesia, and then he just remembers.
Yeah, by looking out to sea or something.
And by remembrance is 40 minutes of the Odyssey happens, and then he has remembered, and so he goes, by the way, I've been Ulysses this whole time. You know that guy you talked, because they talked about Ulysses a whole bunch of times.
Oh, because he does that where he fights the gladiator guy.
Because he wins some big fight, and they're like, holy shit, that guy's really strong.
But not as strong as Ulysses.
Nobody's as strong as Ulysses. Nobody. And he goes, by the way, fuck you, I'm Ulysses. Okay? How am I going to prove it? I can murder you all if I want to. Okay?
Which he proves at the end of the movie. So, so what happens is, during this flashback, you see all the adventures that you would come to know. They have the Cyclops, where, the Cyclops is eating his people, and he's trying to get some drunk with wine, stab his eye out. The part with the sirens, where he gets seduced by the sirens and pretty much kills the rest of his men because he's just because they all go on the ship and the sirens kind of.
He gets strapped to the bow.
Oh yeah.
Is what he does it so he can hear the siren song.
No, but after
which is really cool because the siren song is fucking horrible. I mean, for reasons, reasons, the siren song isn't a thing you want to hear.
No.
It makes you actively insane.
No.
But he still wants to hear it because it's curiosity.
Because all the people want to leave the island, and he's like, no, and she's like, saying they should leave.
Oh, that's Cersei. That's different.
Oh,
that's different. That's different.
I was getting all mixed up in this movie.
Really?
A little bit.
I guess you just didn't know about the Odyssey.
Not so much.
I'm going to tell you, I actually enjoyed the shit out of this movie.
Oh, I actually didn't like it.
Because I knew the Odyssey, and I'm watching, holy shit, this is the fucking Odyssey. They did it. He just never call him Odysseus. They use every other name that I already knew.
Yeah.
They say Cersei. They even say, like I said, they say Achilles. But then, Ulysses this, and I'm like, just say Odysseus, you assholes. Okay?
So what ends up happening, eventually he gets his memory fully restored, and so he reveals his identity, and then for some reason he just goes back to his home island, and then he's like, doesn't reveal he's Ulysses. He full Kevin Costner or Errol Flynn's Robin Hood it, and I'm like, I'm going to put a hood up for this contest.
It's barely a disguise, but his fucking wife doesn't recognize him. But it's been 20 years.
But his son did.
His son.
But even though his son
did, does his son recognize him?
His son's like, because remember, he's like, he reveals to his son, hey, I'm your dad. And he's like, okay.
He believes him, I guess.
So,
mostly because I'm like, then I'm going to go kill all those guys.
And then when he reveals himself, he kills all of the suitors.
This is the fucking Odyssey. You can't sit here and say, this movie's dumb. This is a pretty accurate version of the Odyssey. Much more accurate than I expected.
Wow.
But then again, this is an Italian movie. It's oh wait, the Odyssey is basically their favorite thing in the world.
So I don't know. Kirk Douglas was okay. Like, he kind of is really good at playing like those kind of those self-righteous, like, I'm Ulysses and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know, I just couldn't get into his character because I'm like, he seemed like an asshole. So
it's weird. It's just weird because I was sitting there going like, I was so willing to suspend any disbelief because it's the Odyssey.
Wow.
The stupid shit that happens in this, they meet the fucking Cyclops, who's actually a fucking giant. He's fucking huge. And he actually looks pretty cool.
That was my favorite part.
Amazing.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite part of the movie.
The eye looks like it moves on occasion.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
No, it doesn't.
That was my favorite part.
Because there's no CG. They just did a good job of camera.
No, that was my favorite part of the movie. But I laughed really hard at the end of the movie after he kills all the people. His son's like, I don't blame you. And I'm like, who else do you blame? Who else killed all those fucking people? After all those people are dead. Just, that part cracked me up. He's like, I don't blame you.
This is all stuff from the Odyssey. So I'm like, okay, I can live with it because it's literally just
Fair
like,
enough.
You're stuck with it. It's the Odyssey. Granted, that sounds stupid because we literally we reviewed a Jesus movie and it did stupid shit because it was in the Bible.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, maybe I just like the Odyssey more than the Bible.
Probably. No, I thought it was kind of, with the exception of the Cyclops, I was kind of bored and didn't really care for it. I did like I did like Anthony Quinn as the other guy that came in.
Yeah.
I thought he was good. Like when he was like
he's intimidating. He's just like, I'm gonna win this.
Well, also too, when he was like courting Penelope, he's just like all the stuff that he was saying. I'm like, it sounds pretty good to me. I mean,
no, correct. I actually, he basically kind of convinced her, but then she's like, "Here's this bow that only Ulysses can do, and if you can bend it." And actually, he does kind of bend it a little bit, not enough. I mean, to actually bow the string on it. But none of the other guys were even close. Okay, they don't even fucking budge the thing.
I mean, it's maybe for me, maybe it's just Ulysses is just the Odyssey is just something that maybe is unadaptable to without being ridiculous.
It's all ridiculous. But it's the Odyssey. No, you can adapt it without being ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's called "We're Brother for Art."
Brother, that was awesome.
Just the Odyssey.
Right. Well, in fact, after it was made, I think they said that they didn't. They never read the Odyssey. They just read the Cliff Notes. And
that's all you need. I mean, if you're going to adapt it the way they did, that's all you need. You just say, you're going to have sirens in there, okay? And blah, 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 blah. Now, granted, in that, the sirens in that are just, they just somehow live through it, okay? It is the reason they live through it is they put a bunch of wax in all the men's ears and shit.
Did you notice, if I saw this in my notes, that when they first get on the island and you see all the Italian women, you could like see through their clothes. I was just like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm like 1954. I was like, holy shit!
It's Italy. It's not Hollywood.
I know.
First of all, this is the only movie that was in 3x4 because they were behind the times.
Yeah. So So in 1955, things were starting to get over to CineMascope, and this movie was in production for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And when they started production...
They had special effects and shit.
Well, when they started production, they started like in 52, I think. They were filming in the normal whatever aspect ratio, 4:3. Since then, during they were making the movie, it became... widescreen was the thing to do. So,
which just was basically later on we're going to talk about CineMascope a lot. They talk about it was like 2 years earlier when CineMascope went crazy.
Yeah.
But this is just a tech demo for CineMascope.
Yeah.
Which when we get there. So yes, I'm sorry, I forgot. I do have one really weird note in this.
Okay. Yeah.
All the men are rowing. Okay, they also have a sail, so I'm like, pick one. Okay.
Yeah.
But then when they're rowing the wrong way, they push the oar instead of pulling it.
Yeah.
If you look at it, I'm like, that's not how it fucking works. Learn how to fucking row, you morons. But I'm like, is that how they did it back then? I didn't know.
Yeah, so to me it was just kind of okay. I like the Cyclops and stuff. I'm probably going to give it a 2.
I'm going to give it a solid 3.
Wow! You really
was
it?
Like,
okay.
If I had seen this as a kid, this would be a 4-star. I would have fucking loved it. 3.5 stars easy. And I'm like, because that Cyclops was fucking awesome. The sirens, that was really cool. The whole siren scene where he's tied to the thing so he can hear it.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, he actively says, no matter any orders I give, do not follow them because the sirens are going to make me say shit. The instant he hears sirens, let me away from here! My wife! Because the sirens are acting like they're his wife and kids and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, that's my wife! Let me out! Just turn the boat around and stuff. It's awesome. I really like that.
I'm glad you like that.
I like that. And I also like all the stuff with Cersei. It's only like 40 minutes of it is what we consider the Odyssey.
Yes.
The stuff before it and after it are in the Odyssey, but nobody gives a shit about those.
Well, that was Ulysses.
That was Ulysses.
There you go. Next one is To Catch a Thief. this is Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief. So he made this right after he made Rear Window.
Okay.
And
here's the thing. I had never seen this one. I've seen Rear Window.
Yeah. And then he made this. This was probably right before Trouble with Harry was the other one he made the same year.
Okay.
Which was a comedy.
Boy, he was cranking
and then
out the movies.
Oh yeah, and then next year he did the remake of Man Who Knew Too Much.
Okay.
Which he did the original.
I mean, it's just a movie with the same name. It's not really much of a remake, right?
I
mean, because I've seen
similar.
I should say
because he did both of them.
I watched the original.
He did the original,
and I'm like, why is this movie called this? There's nobody in this that knows too much.
It is a lot different. And then, but then a few years later, he did with Cary Grant again, North by Northwest.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much right at the start of his Twilight era. Or whatever.
When he went crazy, everybody was like, Hitchcock is fucking a super genius.
Yeah, this was
treats women like garbage, but he's a genius.
So, To Catch a Thief, this is more of, I would say it's more of a romance than a thriller.
Yeah.
To be honest, which is...
I wanted it to be more of a thriller.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's definitely, the thriller is definitely on the latter part of it. But Cary Grant plays John Roby the Cat, who's this famous cat burglar that was before the war. He was... like the best thief.
Yeah, he's American, but he was in France, and he was.
And then he kind of redeemed himself by working with the French Resistance and stuff. And then
he like broke out of prison, but then they said you don't have to go to prison because you helped us free our country.
So then, since then, he has been retired and living in like the biggest, craziest, fanciest
I don't know where his money comes from.
Ever.
He's like, I haven't stolen anything in so long. I'm like, where's your money come from? Okay, you're rich.
I don't know. Maybe he invested in some. I don't know, but who knows? But what's happening is now there are a bunch of robberies and burglaries that are happening again. All the signs are showing that it is John Roby, and what it is it's a copycat.
It's a frame up.
It's a frame up. So someone is copying the way that he does his crimes. And so he is determined. The cops are kind of after him, but he kind of flees the cops, and then he goes to his contacts from the French and tries to figure out who is doing this. And so he talks to some insurance guy who give me a list of all your clients who are rich.
Yes.
And so he goes to this
all the potential targets.
Yes. This hotel inn, and that's where he runs into Grace Kelly and his mom.
Yeah, love
interest. And is Jessie Royce Landis. She's awesome.
She's super awesome.
She's good. No, she played.
Cool
4 years later. She played Cary Grant's mom in North by Northwest, even though she was a couple years younger than Cary Grant. Anyways, see how that works.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, she actively looks like she's old enough to be her mom in this.
Yeah.
But she also should she be hitting on Cary Grant?
Yeah, it was more age appropriate.
Yeah, very
for sure.
But she's like trying to set her up with her daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's good looking, but he's more for you.
But anyways, what Grace Kelly is, she seems like that she hasn't really had to work ever in her life, and kind of thing.
She
but
inherited a bunch.
And
of
she
shit.
seems she could get any guy that she wants. She's absolutely drop dead gorgeous in the movie, and the costume that she wears in this movie are just astounding by Edith Head.
She's distractingly attractive.
Yeah, right. She's so, but she's also. I think she's really good in the movie too.
Oh yeah, she's pretty.
I really like her. What I really liked about it was because she figures it out pretty much that that's John Roby the Cat.
Yes.
But she's playing she's
playing it along. That is a great scene when she just
when she reveals she's like, "Oh, you're John Roby the Cat,"
and he's like, "What are you talking about?"
And she's having the choice like, "Well, so what's our next thing? Can we take?"
Yeah.
And she's like, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing it anymore," and she doesn't believe him. But then when her mom's jewels goes missing, then that's when she's like, "Okay, give them back. This isn't funny anymore." And he's like, "I haven't done it." So
because
they eventually
I wouldn't still be here. That's not how the cat works, moron.
John Roby eventually gets her to kind of help him get the real thief. Also, there's something with one of the French people and then the French guy's daughters.
Yeah, who's apparently a teenager, and I'm like,
yeah.
She's a teenager? All right, whatever.
Danielle.
Danielle, it seems to me like they also talk like she did shit back in the war, and I'm like...
She had to have been like 10 or something.
It must have been like 3, because they keep acting like she's 17 years old.
Yeah. But she's always constantly flirting with John Roby, even though he's not super interested, really, I don't think.
No, because he's one of those things where I knew you when you were a baby.
Shut
up, okay?
So... and then eventually leads to like a confrontation that they're at this big final ball where they think the cat is going to strike, or the fake cat.
Yes.
And then so they have this big plan to
because
capture.
he has Sherlock Holmes his whole like I know where the next thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be me, and this is what I would do.
So those of you looking for Alfred Hitchcock's normal kind of thrills this isn't that type of movie. It
doesn't really have.
I mean, there's a couple suspenseful sequences, but they're minor. They're minor.
I was like, I haven't actually been like concerned for anybody in this movie.
No, but I will say this is, I would say,
it's a good movie.
One of his most romantic films.
Yeah.
The scene when the fireworks are going off, both Cary Grant and Grace Kelly are in the room, and it's dark and the fireworks are going, and just the closer he gets in, she finally wears jewels for the first time to entice him.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And she's just like...
he loves his jewels.
Yeah, and
of course she knows.
That scene is actually sexy. I mean, it's a sexy scene, and I really, really like that. And then the scene at the end in the ballroom where Grace Kelly's wearing that gold dress. Like, it is unbelievable.
It does. The movie does a good job of you don't know who the thief is. Because there's like a fake guy. There's a guy that you're supposed to believe is him.
Yes.
And Cary Grant even looks at the guy a couple of times, and you're like, "Is that the guy?" I'm like, "It's just a guy. Why would we think it's him?"
And I like some of the.
It's an old movie. Maybe it's him. Okay.
I also like one of my favorite scenes too is when Cary Grant is talking to Danielle, the teenager, where they're swimming. And then Grace Kelly comes up and they have kind of confrontation.
The teenager is like lying on this floating thing.
Yeah.
Trying to be all sexy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not failing. Okay? That's why I'm like, I don't think she's a teenager. Because I don't want her to be one. Okay? Yeah. But she's like lying there, and then I'm like, and he swims out there to talk to her, and I'm like, does he think Grace Kelly can't see him? Then he's just like in the middle of the ocean.
She comes right out and she's just like, "Oh, what's going on here?
What's going on here? Talking to this teenager, blah blah blah." And I'm like, just like chick I know.
But then she's like, "Oh, look at these old lady." Like, pretty much called Grace Kelly like an old lady. I'm like,
I think she's like 6 months older than you. Okay?
Yeah. So I've seen this movie many times. It's a classy movie. Cary Grant is very good in the movie. He's classing it up. I think Grace Kelly's really good. I really like John Williams, a different John Williams. John Williams plays the insurance guy, and I really liked him.
Oh, yeah, he's good. He's really cool.
Very British.
There is a thing in the final, like, confrontation thing at the ball.
Yeah.
There's a guy in that big outfit that's, I'm like, is this blackface? I don't know what that is. It's like a costume of some sort.
Yeah, and it's just a...
And you're supposed to think
it's Cary Grant.
It's Cary Grant.
Yeah.
And then he takes it off, and it's the insurance guy, and I'm like, oh... And then they cut to Cary Grant being on the roof the whole time. Because it's like, that's where the cat's going to come from.
Yeah.
I guess that makes more sense.
That was kind of cool.
That's where he would be. And then the cat does show up. The new cat.
Yeah.
Spoiler, the teenage girl.
Yeah.
And she's been doing this because she's been mad about what has happened to her dad. Because her dad, like, died. Well,
he killed it.
Yeah.
Dad, I don't know what she was doing before, but no, her dad was the one that got killed.
Yeah.
That night. He's got that weird silver thing in his hair. It's silver.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he got killed, and she got really mad, even though... And she goes, "You did all this," and I'm like, and then at the end,
I think they were doing it together. I think her and her dad were.
You've been the cat the whole time,
right? But I think her dad knew. I think they were kind of working together.
Oh yeah, very much. There's no way her dad didn't know.
Yeah,
her dad was definitely in on this, and was also a crook.
And if you look at this little poster, that's actually one of my favorite shots in the movie. Is when you like, hey, the cat's up on the roof, and everyone looks up, and Cary Grant's kind of in the shadows, but his back's facing the camera. And then everything is light in front of him.
Well, the first time you see the cat in those things, too, they don't show you who it is.
No. Yeah.
You don't have any idea. There's a lot of usage of cats themselves, too. Like, early on, when they show you the opening scene is the cat steals some stuff.
Yeah.
But then they would cut to an actual cat, like, on the roof right next to the cat. I'm like...
What I love about the movie too, the titles open up and it has this like really bright musical, like it sounds like it's going to be like a romantic comedy, and then as soon as it says directed by Alfred Hitchcock, all of a sudden it cuts to a woman screaming, "Ah!" and then the music switches. I'm like, oh shit, okay, here we go. Yeah, I think this is a really enjoyable kind of a romance movie, especially the strong point for me is all the interplay between Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. Their stuff together, their scenes together, their chemistry's pretty dang good.
Yeah, they're good
in the film. And I love the ending because it ends with, they catch the thief and everything, and then Cary Grant just takes off, and Grace Kelly is racing after him, and then she shows up at the house and this is where you live, And then, they hug and embrace, and Mother's going to love it up here. And then Cary Grant just kind of looks over and was like, what? You didn't like that?
No, here's the thing. I like this movie.
Yeah.
But it's called To Catch a Thief.
Yeah.
I was more interested in that part where he was trying to catch a thief.
Okay.
And I'm like,
not as much the romance as I was.
What the fucking romance?
I
want to know who the bad guy is. I want to know this shit. Although you're right, their chemistry's pretty good.
Yeah.
They're good. Everybody in it is really good.
Mm-hmm. You just wanted more.
I just wanted it to be because I've seen other Hitchcocks.
Well, and
that are like
and that's
this
why
edge of your seat, because Rear Window will fucking drive you crazy.
For my money, that's his best movie.
Yeah.
No, this isn't one of those types of movies, and I feel like that if you're going to watch this, just know going in that this isn't going to be there's a little bit of suspense in it, but it's mainly focused more on the romance.
Yeah.
And it does it really well. He does a really good job with it. So I'm a 3.5 on it because I've seen it many times and I just really like it.
I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think if I watched it some more, knowing what I was going into, I'm like, oh, okay, now I know. It's called To Catch a Thief, but ignore that part.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a fun, delightful film and has really good cinematography. And it's good. It was mostly shot in the studio, but occasionally they would shoot on location.
Yeah, there's some great on location.
Yeah. But it's funny because
you can also tell, there's a set now.
Well,
but it's a good set.
They would show like the B-roll of like, oh, there's the set, and then when it would cut to them, oh, they're on a set. Oh, and now there's the location, then there's the set. But that was pretty common. Hitchcock did that a lot.
They're like on top of a bluff or something.
Yeah.
Overlooking a city, and I'm like, holy shit, that is fucking phenomenal.
And again, just to say this one more time, as Grace Kelly's mom, Jessie Royce Landis is really awesome.
Oh, she is so good
in the movie. She's sassy.
So
and I love how she doesn't care about her.
What you mostly have to do is think Cary Grant is like 34. Not in reality, not in this movie.
He was probably like 50 in this movie.
But you have to think of him as being a guy who was in the war when he was like 20s. You know what I mean? And now he's like mid-30s.
Yeah.
It works then.
Mm-hmm.
You just imagine Cary Grant had a real rough 15 years and it looks real fucking old now, okay?
So that's To Catch a Thief. Next one, what I thought was going to be a musical double feature.
Yeah, because you lied to me, Austin Kennedy.
And I don't know if someone told me, but I just thought Three Coins in a Fountain was a musical.
It makes sense to me. And actually,
the song,
we aren't even there yet.
No.
When we get to it, we'll talk more about that one.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right, next one is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. This is directed by Stanley Donen, who was one of the co-directors of Singing in the Rain, the other director being Gene Kelly.
Okay.
Did Singing in the Rain. But he started doing his own solo stuff, but I think he started
is this the one who's still alive, or was alive recently? Because it was like one of the Singing in the Rain guys was alive until very recently.
In 2019, yeah. 94 years old.
I remember that like a few years ago, and I saw like a trivia thing, and they go, the director of Singing in the Rain is still alive, and I'm like, no, he's not. It's 2015. That was like millions of years ago.
Yeah, Stanley Donen. He's made some really good movies. I really like Charade and some other movies he made. He also made some pretty crazy movies in 1980 he made a sci-fi thriller with Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett called Saturn III.
I've heard of it.
Holy shit. It's so bad, but it's funny. And Harvey Keitel's in it, and his voice is dubbed, and it's weird.
1980, here we go.
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It stars Howard Keel and Jane Powell. And this is big, bright, huge musical with dance numbers and songs. Mm-hmm. And it is super misogynistic. But so to a point where it becomes parody and spoof.
Well, here's the weird thing about this movie.
Yeah.
You know how I will scream and give.
That's why I'm like, well,
I'm going to tell you, I'm not giving this movie zero stars.
Yes!
Because there's the first half of the movie that is 3.5 stars of amazingness, and then there's a 0-star second.
No!
And I'm like, 1.5 stars.
So for me, this movie is the misogyny and all the stuff in the movie.
Dude, the misogyny is to the fucking next level.
But
it's
ridiculous to a point where I think it goes to spoof and satire.
Yes.
That's how I feel about the movie.
I feel like if you did it in 1980, it'd be a spoof. So in this one, they're like, this is how you get married.
In what now? Because they even call him out of that. Like that's like.
They're gonna like lynch him.
So when I saw this, my mom showed this to me because this is one of my mom's favorite films. Growing up, she would go like, "Now this isn't okay." Like she was telling.
Wait, kidnapping a woman and forcing her to marry you isn't okay.
But
weird, Austin.
But she realized also how ridiculous it was, and it's silly. It's silly.
Are you sure your mom didn't think it was okay? She's the one who brought you to radar movies when you were a fucking baby. Okay?
So, yeah, backwoodsman Adam Pontopee, he's in town, and he's like, I'm going to get some groceries, and hey, do you get a woman under the counter? Because I want to get a wife.
He went to town to get a wife. And one of the things he's shopping for.
And right away, the song, bless their beautiful heart wherever she may be.
And I'm like,
you're the one for me.
This song is fucking phenomenal.
I fucking love that song.
This song is so fucking good. Even though this is one of those musicals where when the singing happens, it actively sounds like there's a record being played, and their voices are nothing like their speaking voice. It's like, is that the same guy?
Well Howard Keel it does, because he just has that booming voice, so that's just how he sounds. And before you know it, he meets Jane Powell, and he's just like, nope, just the right size, oh, and full of sass.
Yeah.
She's the girl for me.
So
he pretty much goes, he pretty much oversells it, like, it's going to be like a honeymoon, because we're up in the woods.
Oh, I own a house, I own an entire
farm, and
we can go up there, we'll live alone, it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you about the 6 other guys I live with. And they're basically just going to be our mother.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God, did I feel terrible for her. When she got there and she realizes she's essentially just their mother now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God, I feel so fucking bad for her.
Right? And you're like,
holy shit. I know the name of this movie. 6 other women are showing up.
So, well, anyways, it shows, she gets there and the brothers are like, fighting each other and they're all, but of course she cleans them up. She teaches them manners. Go in court.
The songs are amazing.
She teaches the brothers all the manners and stuff. Who doesn't really learn manners is the husband. Not really.
No, he already has a wife. He doesn't need to.
What do I learn manners for? I'm already married. He even said that.
He succeeded in showing up, having a big curly red beard that he then shaved off, and I'm like, you look 100 times better with that fucking beard.
Yeah.
Looks fucking weirdo with
that mustache,
beard. That beard made him look a lot cooler. Okay, fuck that. Get rid of your beard back, moron.
So, but then they go to this barn raising event thing with a dance, and that's when she teaches. I love it. She has one scene where she teaches the brothers how to dance, and they are the best dancers in the world.
They are amazing. That scene, I was sitting there, I'm like,
okay.
In my notes, I'm going to see if I can find this moment in my notes.
One of the best dance sequences, and it's actually known among film historians as one of the best dance sequences ever in film history.
Oh, it's
it's the scene. So the scene is, to set it up, they're there. There's the 6 brothers. There's 6 girls they're interested in. And there's 6 rival guys that also like these girls, and they have this, like, it must be, I think it's an 8-minute dance sequence, and they go back and forth. It's a dance off, and they go back and forth between the rivals and them. They keep going. So the 6 brothers, 4 of them are professional dancers.
Oh, I can believe it.
One of them,
I'm watching, and I'm like,
the other one is Russ Tamblyn, who's known for using West Side Story. And, And but he wasn't a professional dancer, but he was known for being he was an acrobat. So that's why when he was doing like the axe thing, when he was like going like when he was jumping the axe, so he was doing flips and stuff. And then there's one guy, if you ever watch it again, who was paired with Julie Newmar. He did not dance at all, and every once in a while he would dance with the girls, but he wasn't doing any of the solo dancing. You see him on the side just watching.
I'm going to watch the hell out of that scene over and over.
So
because it's after that where I'm like, I don't need to watch the rest of this movie.
But when they're dancing and they have that like beam and the guy's dancing on the beam.
Oh yeah.
And the guy who plays Caleb, who got the red hair and the goatee, and he's super. As soon as you see that guy, you're like, that guy's a professional dancer. Like, as soon as you see him in the movie, you're like,
in my notes it says, let's see here. This is the movie about 6 closeted dancers who then have to get married to their beards.
Then it proceeds to go, because now they're all bellyache. Actually, right after that, I really like the barn raising scene where they're fighting.
Oh, the fight is awesome. So this movie's so fucking good. So it's not good at all.
So the fight choreography in the film is just as exciting as the dancing. Like when they're fighting and stuff. I'm like, holy cow, they're fighting.
I'm watching it, I'm like, this is actually a 50s fight. This is amazing.
It's really good. Very good.
Like, it's so fun to watch, and you can see everything happening, and this is a choreographed fight.
And then there's a scene when all the brothers are sad because they have the women. Actually, I really like that song when they're sad because they're chopping the wood. It's like a long take, and everything's in rhythm, and they're sawing the wood, and that's a really good scene.
As much as I shit in the second half of this movie, you're right. It is just, it's so stupid.
I'm laughing through the whole movie.
They
even when they
you haven't gotten there yet.
No. So well, first of all, because Howard Keel tells them, I read this thing about in the Bible and the Romans, what the Romans do. Those sobbing women.
He didn't say the Bible in her book.
Her book
she just happens to bring. You mean the Bible? Is that what you're talking about? Because she had to crack it open when she first got there.
Yeah.
She was, I got to do something. I'm going to sit here. She locked herself in her room and said, because this was their wedding night. She goes, nope, not laying with you.
Yeah.
You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Who essentially kidnapped me and turned me into your mom.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, anyways, he goes, hey, why don't you go take them? So they bring their sled and they take the women, they kidnap them, throw them in the back, and then they're being chased, and then the avalanche happens, which actually looks pretty fucking good. That avalanche looks pretty awesome.
The avalanche.
Yeah. Because they let the woman scream.
And while I'm watching, I'm like, how many people died in this avalanche? Did they murder?
It's a pretty awesome looking
avalanche. When they show like a shot of you can see
it's a long
snow,
shot,
and I'm like,
and then you see them in the foreground.
They found a spot where an avalanche was going to happen in 20 minutes, and then they waited.
The photographic effects are really looks really good. But then she's just like, what are you doing? You send them back, So she's like, I don't think the movie's pro-kidnapping, It's like...
Can't send them back. We caused an avalanche, and now
they're
we're
all
stuck
proud.
here for the winter. Okay?
But of course, since the women did like them before, they end up going back to them,
All the men are sleeping in the living room,
before you can say Stockholm Syndrome, they are all head over heels.
They are like... They're sleeping on their cots because
they're like, ooh, which one did I sleep with? Julie Newmar,
is like punishes them.
Yeah,
and she's like,
Julie Newmar's like, ooh, which one?
I'm on a bed. And also Adam has like exiled himself because she really yelled at him.
Yeah,
because it was his idea.
Yeah,
this worst idea in movie history.
Yes.
Okay,
get out of here. But as it's happening, all that stuff with the kidnapping, I can't help but just laugh at the fucking how stupid it is.
Hilarious.
It's funny. And
it's just like.
Obviously, I'm not for this, but it's just one of those movies. I just accept it because it's so ridiculously and silly, and I think it's to the point of satire. Yeah. And it's to me,
we're an hour into the movie, and I'm like, this movie's called Seven Brides, and there's one bride, and the other woman kind of hate him now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, then it turns out, Jane Powell has a baby. And then so
they don't know whose child it is because they don't understand gestation period.
Yeah, right. So when the men come back, the fathers come back in the spring to get them, and they all don't want to leave now because they love the brothers. The preacher, the pastor, reverend, or whatever, is just like, hey, I heard a baby up there. Whose is that? It's mine. And then shotgun wedding. All six of them.
It's my baby.
And then a shotgun wedding, they kiss, and the end.
The end.
Yes.
They're all now married. And if they showed literally 2 months from now, half of them are murdered in a horrible, horrible slaughter.
Beautiful. This is shot in beautiful CinemaScope. It looks gorgeous.
Oh, it's so fucking pretty.
The music and dancing are great. The performances are spirited and fun, all of them. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So I love the costumes too. Like when they go to the dance and they're all wearing a bright colored shirt.
Oh god, they're basically
awesome.
like different Power Rangers,
right? But this is interesting. When they shot the film, it was right when CinemaScope was coming, and they're like, we don't know how we want to shoot this. They shot it. Every scene was shot twice. Once with the 4.3 camera, and once with a widescreen camera.
If you were to watch this on television, it wouldn't be cropped.
They would show.
It wouldn't be pan and scan. It would look normal.
Yeah, and so I have the DVD and it has both versions of it.
If you watched, and by TV I mean TV in 1980.
Right, but it's cool because
TV,
so if you
TV can show widescreen shit.
So if you watch the other version, it's different because they're slightly different because they're saying things differently because it's different takes.
Interesting.
It's really interesting.
That is fascinating.
Isn't that?
That is fascinating.
So that's kind of neat.
This is our CinemaScope day.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of CinemaScopes. So I love this movie so much. None of that stuff bothers me because I just think it's silly. It's 4 stars for me.
You might be convincing.
It's so much fun to watch.
So silly.
It's so much fun. It's 4 stars. It's one of my favorite musicals.
And I talked to our friend Amber, and she goes, "I still love that movie." She's like, and I'm like, "But all those horrible things happen." She goes, "Whatever." And I'm like, "All right, maybe."
That's how I feel about it. It's like whatever.
Let's keep this running train going. 3 stars.
Okay, good. 3 stars. I got you.
I still have to say, the first half of this movie is so fucking fun.
Yeah.
It's a 4-star, 3.5-star.
Yeah,
thing.
it's
I have to drop it down in some way.
Some way. No, this is one of my favorite musicals. It's great. So it was really fun to watch. Oh, it was interesting. I was reading some stuff on here. Michael Kidd, who did the choreography, he almost turned it down because he thought he'd be like, seeing like backwoodsmen dance? I'm like, that's going to be stupid.
They all look amazing.
Right.
And also the backgrounds in this. It's like everything's on a set.
Oh, yeah.
Everything looks amazing.
It looks like they shot it outside. Yeah,
they did a
cool.
great job of those backdrops.
And because they have a lot of fake trees in there.
Yeah,
and stuff.
awesome. And you can see where like the background starts, but the seam of it is so almost seamless. You're like, it just looks like outside.
You know, I'm very happy because when we came back, I'm talking to some people, and I'm just like, I don't know how Tim's going to take this. Because he loves musicals, but on one hand, he gets really...
It's 100% I love musicals.
But also, you also get, like, if people, and especially toxic masculinity, happens in a movie, it's usually 0 stars. So I'm like,
toxic
fuck,
masculinity
what's going to happen?
A lot of it is, you're supposed to like him. But in this, I'm like, I'm not even sure you're supposed to like him.
No, I don't think so.
You're not supposed to agree with him at all.
No, I don't think so.
You're supposed to go like, they did this horrible thing, then it worked out. Okay?
All right, the next movie, Three Coins in the Fountain. I was really thinking it was going to be a musical, I'm like...
It starts off with a song.
Frank Sinatra.
A pre-credit song.
Three Coins in the Fountain.
Oh, fuck, we got Sinatra. This is going to be...
Well, so this is interesting.
Awesome. And that's like, there's like kind of a song later.
So this was another... So Seven Brides was also 1954. So this is a holdover, and this was also 54. So the other movie, one movie we didn't see with Grace Kelly, The Country Girl, that we could have seen, but it was out that time, that was also nominated for Best Picture. So we would have seen, if we would have watched it, we would have saw 3 54 Best Picture nominees.
Oh, wow.
Also, we already saw a 54 Best Picture nominee, The Cane Mutiny. So now
that should have been the winner.
So now we're just
I'm sorry, except for 20 Minutes, which was the worst movie in the world.
So Three Coins in the Fountain. It's more of a romance, kind of melodrama.
This is full-fledged, but you know that the moment this movie starts,
it's a romance,
there's like 3 women, and she just moved to Rome, and I'm like, okay.
The movie opens without the titles, just the song showing beautiful. Scenic
the entire song, like all 3 minutes of it.
Yeah, with Frank Sinatra, singing, and the showing different fountains and stuff in Rome, and it's beautiful to look at. And then the titles come on, and you're like, okay, so the titles go, and I get introduced. One of the girls. Let's see, I have to get all the cast on here. Okay, was it Dorothy McGuire? Was Miss Francis? Was that the one? I don't even remember their names.
the 2
No,
leads.
that's not her. Who was the main one?
Oh, there's the 3 women. Yeah.
Was it Maria? Oh, it was Maria, yeah.
Yeah, that's
so Maria
right, yeah.
shows up, and played by Maggie McNamara, and she shows up, and she's kind of being like a secretary, assistant, whatever.
She's like going to be a secretary.
Yep.
And
with 2 other secretaries.
In Rome, secretaries fucking rich. Okay.
that apartment or that place they have.
This is what you can afford. And I'm like, what? As a what? As a brand new secretary?
Right.
You're gonna own this fucking mansion? Holy shit!
She's working with one of Gene Peters is working with Maria at this one place, and then Dorothy McGuire is Miss Francis. She's working with that who played by Clifton Webb, the famous author guy.
Yes. How old is she?
She is like 39 in actress-wise. She was like 38 or 39.
She was the older of the 3.
He was 60. Clifton Webb was. Yeah.
I know. But she was the older. She at least wasn't 22 because they end up together.
Because the other ones were, yeah. And so what it is they each have their own kind of fellow or person that they get romantically involved with. Miss Francis was the author. But that doesn't happen until like the last half hour of the movie.
It's weird. They say stuff like...
She was like in the background.
I've been in love with him for 15 years, and I'm like, you have? When you didn't tell that? Didn't mention that earlier?
Well, they didn't even really have her. She was more of a background character until the last half hour.
But I'm like, wait, there are the 3 of them. Yeah. They're all going to end up with somebody.
Right.
Who's she going to end up with?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. She ended up with the old guy. All right.
Maria, she meets she's the youngest one. She meets the prince guy played by Louis Jordan. Louis Jordan, he's the bad guy in Swamp Thing, so I got really excited. I'm like, yes, Swamp Thing! Anyway.
In Swamp Thing? That's 25 years later.
Yeah, it is. 28 years later, but yeah.
Oh, God,
Yeah, 82. Anyway, so he plays this prince who's a kind of a real women's opera. They said, "Oh, don't trust him because when he says, let's go to Venice,' that's, you're gonna be one of his Venice girls." Mm-hmm. And of course, she's like, "Oh, I want to go to Venice," and she's a little naive and like, "We'll do it anyways," and whatever. And then then she like gets Miss Frances to come with.
It was kind of Miss Frances'
She's like, "Oh, let's go to Venice."
I'll go with you. Secret chaperon.
Yeah, right.
Because he just wants. She actively says, people are gonna think something.
Yeah.
There's abortion talk in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Even though nobody ever bangs anybody.
No. But so Maria, though, like, she ends up, like, really liking this guy. And so she ends up, like, lying, like, trying to find out all the stuff that he likes and pretends to like everything that he likes. So she becomes kind of a fraud. Mm-hmm. And then finally he's like, "Oh, I like someone." Then
she tells him.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, oh, shit. This is cool.
Yeah. And then and he was rightly upset.
But she legit felt bad. Yeah. And then said, "I have to confess."
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I've seen other movies
where they don't.
And then it's just like, that's how they found love, through horrible lies.
And then the third romance was the Dorothy McGuire, which she kind of looks like Rosemary Clooney a little bit. And not Dorothy McGuire, Jean Peters. She looks like Rosemary Clooney. Yeah. She's the one that falls in love with the local Italian guy, or Roman guy, I should say, and
the guy who works Italian at the same place.
Yeah.
So she's technically not allowed to date him.
Yes.
And so that gets him in big trouble.
Yeah, both of them.
He gets fired.
Yeah. Well, she does too.
Yeah, they're both canned.
Yeah.
And now she has to go back to the America.
Well, she lied and said, "I'm going back to America because I'm getting married," but she's not.
Yes.
So that was a weird
That was
reason.
just because she wanted to go back to America.
Yeah. So anyways, there's all this stuff going on. About half an hour into the movie, I'm like, where's the next... wait, who's going to sing? Let's go. And then an hour into the movie, I'm like, shit.
This movie's not a fucking musical,
This isn't a musical.
But here's the thing. I'm like a half hour in and I'm like, I'm fine with this not being a musical. It's just a movie. It's a fine movie.
Oh, I thought it was kind of dull.
I mean, here's the thing.
In fact, if there was singing and dancing in this movie, at least a 1-star higher.
Okay.
I feel like this should have been a musical. I would have liked it so much better if it was a musical.
It's mostly because the stuff that actually happened in it, I found interesting.
Okay.
She was lying, and she did like her research.
Yeah.
And some of the scenes where she's like bald-faced talking about, like, she did research on art and shit. Yeah. And I'm like, boy, she's just lying her ass off. Boy, is she ever a fucking liar. But then when she came clean, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. He does get mad. Yeah. Because he actively thought he finally found somebody. And I'm like, literally, she was so mind-numbingly perfect.
Right.
She liked everything you ever even thought you might like. She also started to play the piccolo. And I'm like, just because you play piccolo. Okay? Just fucking figure shit out. That happens. Yeah. The other thing where they go on a date. She's kind of almost had that weird car accident thing was cool.
Oh, yeah.
Because she, like, couldn't get it in gear. And there's no brakes on this car, on this truck. And I'm like, dude, do not get in that truck without brakes.
Well, that was
on top of a fucking mountain.
Well, soon as
you're fucking dead.
As soon as she got in it, I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. What are you guys doing?
Idea. And he's like, put it in gear. And she's like, I couldn't get it in gear. She, like, hits a tree to stop it, essentially.
And that was the Jean Peters
She's fine,
character,
and then they start kissing because he's, like, really concerned. And it's like Passions. And I'm like, I can live with that. But weirdly, the one that should make me the maddest, where the old guy literally she's like the secretary.
Oh, yeah,
like
the author.
She's going to leave. She's going back to the U.S. And he's like, why don't you just marry me?
Well, he didn't want her to change it because he was...
Yeah, and he even fully basically owns up, so it's like, it's just because I want you to stay here. Right? Also, you're hot and I'll bang you.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I'm not married. You probably want to get married, and she's secretly been in love with him and stuff like this, which I'm like, all of Rome is known, and I'm like, I didn't know, but whatever, okay? And then he finds out, like, the next fucking day, he has some terminal illness.
That's right, yeah.
They don't tell you what it is.
Nope.
And then he starts treating her like shit so that she doesn't get hurt. She doesn't want to marry a guy who's going to die in the next year. Okay? She finds out because the doctor called, and she's his fucking secretary. So of course she fucking found out, you moron. Okay? But then he finds out there's these other romances. And he's just like, you know something? I'm a rich author. I'm going to go fix all this shit. And he does. He goes out and he's like, I'm going to go talk to the prince guy. I liked all that shit.
You did. See,
I'm going to tell you.
I was eye-rolling.
3 fucking stars.
I gave it a 2. I would have liked this better.
I've given everything a 3 stars, Austin.
Wow.
This freaking episode is stupid.
Wow. There you go.
I don't think it's going to continue. We'll see.
Wow, you really did.
I gave them all 3.
So yeah, this is a 2 for me. It was just, I thought it was really dull, and to me, it was an eye-rolling conclusion.
It's weird. As it chugs along, I'm like,
no.
I wish there was singing and dancing.
I mean, this probably, also cool. Probably because we saw one of the most energetic musicals of all time, and then I sit down and watch this, and I'm like, here we go!
It might be, like, nobody kidnapped anybody, and I just watched it, so I'm like, yeah, I'll cut the poop some slack.
So yeah, I was disappointed, and like I said, I don't want to be unfair and say I didn't like it for what it's not, because it's not a musical. Maybe I need to watch it again, but I just didn't, I don't know, it was just okay. It looked beautiful. It won Academy Award for Best Cinematography.
Oh, it was pretty damn pretty.
It was
very pretty. It
looked really good. All right, anyways.
Lots of very pretty shit going on there.
But yeah, so that's 3 Coins in the Fountain. So wow, I'm glad you liked it. Wow, look at you. Here we go. Cinerama Holiday.
I'm going to tell you, all the other prettinesses, fucking pale in comparison to this fucking movie.
Oh.
Holy shit, is this thing gorgeous.
So, Cinerama Holiday, we got to go to the theater to actually watch it in Cinerama scope. And what Cinerama was, I mean, it was even more than just widescreen. I'm not going to say it's exactly like it, but it's kind of like what what IMAX and all that stuff. But
Except for IMAX also goes above you.
Yeah.
This is just super wide.
Yeah,
okay?
so and it curves around. So you're actually like, it curves around you. So you're looking to the left and looking to the right.
You're like wearing Geordie LaForge's thing, and then you can look around in it, okay?
And
that's kind of what it is.
And so in 1952, they made This Is Cinerama. And that was the big movie to the big the first one.
Is that like, this is a sequel to that, essentially?
There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of Cinerama films.
They just said, we have a Cinerama, we got to put these Cinerama movies out.
And so what Cinerama is it
is, in many ways, this is like going to the Science Museum and seeing the IMAX there.
Yeah.
It's a documentary.
And so this is what...
It's not 2 fucking hours long.
No. And this is what it was kind of like. So it was like, because they actually show you in the beginning of the movie like how they do Cinerama. There's 3 cameras in there,
I was watching
and 3 projectors that would go.
I didn't expect to find this part so interesting. It's actually really cool.
Yeah,
and they show you the camera. They talk about the guy who died and he invented CinemaScope.
And that's all shot in 4:3.
Yeah.
And then you see the plot of the movie, which is essentially they take 2 couples, and this is a documentary, they take 2 couples, one from Europe and one from America, and they're going to switch spots. Like they're going to go to Paris and Sweden.
Yeah, one goes to Europe and the other one comes to the U.S.
And then they're going to go to
I don't think
Las
the
Vegas.
Europeans ever went anywhere near Kansas City.
So they switch spots, and so that's kind of the setup. And then they show them traveling to Europe, and then the curtain opened up.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to tell you, that happened.
No, me too.
I'm like, I got fucking goosebumps.
I did too.
It was nuts.
I did too. I was like, whoa, look at this. And it was really cool to see that. When the movie was doing point of view shit, they're in Switzerland, and they do the bobsleds. Like, that was really cool. Bobsled race?
It was loud as fuck with the weird clankety clanks, but I'm like,
the bobsled that I remember...
If you're on a bobsled, it's loud as fuck.
So the bobsled that I watched when I was a kid is totally different than this one. This looks really unsafe. Holy shit. Well, that's all about... I'm like,
Well, there's like a skating thing where they bring out, like, people which I assume were Olympians.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, boy... They are a lot better now because those guys kind of do some mild skate tricks.
It was pretty neat. Well, it was interesting to watch because the way they shoot it, you're like looking all around and like, oh, look at this trick, look at this trick.
It's so pretty.
It's really cool to look at.
Everything is so fucking gorgeous. Well, most things are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just like, here's a school and there's some kids in school. I'm like, okay.
Why are we watching this?
I know what that looks like. Stop showing me this. I was there once.
When they go to America, I thought it was really neat to see Old Vegas.
Yeah.
So you get to see like what Old Vegas looks like, which doesn't look very impressive actually.
No, but also
to,
weirdly, if you go to the old strip, all that shit's still there.
Yeah. It was really cool seeing that stuff. All the POV stuff was really cool. And I'll tell you this, there's a lot of like vaudeville stuff they have that they show, and I thought that was cool.
In many ways, this is a tech demo of like, you want to know a CinemaScope and how cool it can be? Here you go.
Right.
And periodically, the cameras are going to fucking move. And you might get a little sick.
Yeah, there was a couple where they did that. So I will say this, though. So the movie is over 2 hours.
Yes.
There was an intermission.
There's we had a 15-minute intermission.
So we had a 15-minute intermission.
Go take healthy shit.
If this movie was done at the 15-minute intermission, I'd probably give it a 3.
I'm going to tell you, if this movie was done at the intermission, 3.5.
So
I was blown away and entertained.
But then when we came back, we sat down
15 minutes, and I'm like, I don't need to watch any more of this.
No, and it wasn't as interesting. Like, they go to a mass for like 10 minutes,
yeah, it was
and you're like,
those creepy monk kids were fucking terrifying. They looked like a terror horror
And then they
movie.
had some like folk singers on there, and probably the coolest thing at the end was when they do the jet thing, when you go inside the jet.
Yes,
that
the
was
jet
cool.
stuff, but that was like right at the end.
Yes.
There's literally like, after the intermission, there's a solid half hour of like...
At least 40 minutes.
That first hour was 100 times better than
Yes,
this.
I agree. And
this is
so,
really fucking boring.
But it was kind of, I'm glad we saw it, and I'm glad we got to see it, experience it in the thing. So it's 2.5. I'm not fully recommending it because
I have to go 2.5.
I would watch the first half again.
I think I'm breaking my 3-star streak. It's 2.5 because as much as here's the thing, because there is an intermission and there's no story in this. No. You can literally watch it to the intermission and then just be done. And the characters, all the other stuff that happens is just more of the same, but not as good.
The couples are not interesting either.
No,
they're just really boring.
Oh my God, they're so boring. And I fully believe these were not actors, and then they do a voiceover, and they're talking, and I'm like, you guys are terrible.
It sounds like they are reading from a script like this, and this is how their dialogue is.
They got attractive people, but they didn't get attractive people who were also talented in any way. You know what? Hollywood's full of attractive, talented people.
It didn't even need to be, talented, like even just charismatic.
Just
I mean, how about a little charisma?
We went to New York City, and there's literally showing after the intermission. They go to New York and they show like the skyline in New York, and I'm like, boy, I wish this was good now because it's just I've seen the skyline in New York. Okay.
So I don't know, but
the
it was
cloud shit and stuff in the beginning was so. When that opened up.
Me too.
Fucking goosebumps.
I did too. I thought that was.
Oh my God, this is fucking phenomenal.
I thought that was really cool. So it'd be neat to see more Cinerama movies.
It would be, but you have to go. You have to see them, and they have to be made specifically for this.
Yes.
We've seen other ones that say, "Oh, this is a CinemaScope," and I'm like, "It's just really widescreen."
But
it doesn't have the bowing. Where you can see things.
So if you get the Blu-rays, there are not all of the Cinerama films, but most of the Cinerama films are out on Blu-ray, and when you watch them, they're in a curved letterbox.
Yeah, and it works.
So I
watched a little bit of it when we got back. After our traveling time. Okay. And I'm like,
no, I've seen them too.
Works. And I have a projector at home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll just fucking watch it there.
So that's Cinerama Holiday. We got 2 more left. We're breezing through 7 movies. Look at that.
We are breezing through.
So My Sister Eileen, this was one that it just kind of fit in. There wasn't really necessarily a reason.
I have never heard of this movie. Have you ever heard of it?
So I have heard of it.
Okay.
I heard of it because I love Jack Lemmon. He's one of my favorite actors. And when I like an actor, I look up their filmography. So I've seen his filmography a bunch, and I know that this was one of his early films, and I knew it was more of a supporting role in it, so I knew that. Then I also did, it was based off, there's a 1942 movie, which was not a musical. It's Rosalind Russell that was in it. And what I didn't know, it was actually originally based off of a play. Also, I didn't know this was a musical. So, did you? I just thought it was going to be like a screwball comedy.
The Joyous New Musical. It's on the poster.
I didn't see the poster when we walked in. I didn't see it.
I did. Cause take a look at that poster. It's worth looking at.
Janet Leigh in there. Oh, she's gorgeous in this movie. Anyways, so My Sister Eileen. It starts off and you hear the narration. You see like Greenwich Village. Here's Greenwich Village in New York, and there's no titles yet. And you hear Betty Garrett, who plays Ruth. She's narrating the beginning and going like... Then she talks about her sister Eileen. She's like, my sister Eileen. And then, my sister Eileen. And then, boom, the title shows...
The first song starts and I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
Musical.
I did not know. And I'm like... Because, like I said, I was disappointed in Three Coins in the Fountain not being a musical. So I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go, baby.
Oh.
So, Betty Garrett... plays Ruth. I've seen her in some musicals before. In 1949, she was in Take Me Out to the Ball Game and On the Town, both with Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly. And she is so funny in those movies. This is her first movie in 6 years because she was blacklisted.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's the mid-50s. Blacklist was still on, I thought. Okay.
She was, they hired her, and I don't think, and that's why, she's essentially the lead in the film. She is third billed in that movie,
But she is
she's lead.
She's the main character in the movie.
Absolutely.
Her sister Eileen is why it's called My Sister Eileen, because the main character's sister happens to be named Eileen and is like a hot blonde.
Yeah. So Janet Leigh is in there, and this is 2 years after Houdini, which we reviewed. So this is 2 years after that. And very different performance from Janet Leigh. Very different.
Very different. Actively better.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because Houdini is like she barely.
I thought I liked her in the movie, but it's a different performance.
In that movie.
No.
She barely factors in that fucking movie.
So the premise is kind of that. Well, there's two girls. They're trying to make it. Ruth wants to be a reporter, and Eileen wants to be an actress.
Yes.
And they're going there to make it, but her whole life. That's why it's called My Sister Eileen, because she usually, if she meets men, they like her until she meets her sister Eileen, because her sister Eileen is probably more mainstream, whatever, attractive or whatever. But Betty Garrett is still pretty cute.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong.
No.
She's fucking Janet Leigh. Oh yeah, she's fucking hideous. What are you talking about?
But I mean, but Betty Garrett.
She's only the second hottest movie star in the world.
But the movie starts off where they're looking for an apartment, and the character Papa.
Oh God, I love him.
He's awesome. He's played by
God damn it.
Kurt
This movie
Kasner.
is so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I came out of nowhere and I'm like, oh my God, this movie is fucking movie perfection.
Yeah. Glad you like it. I was worried about this one too, because there's some skeevy stuff occasionally.
That's awesome.
Okay, good. Wow, I'm so happy that you like this. Good. So Kurt Kasner plays Papa, and he's great in the movie. He's like every character ever. The performance in this isn't a realistic movie. It almost feels like a live action cartoon,
It
like
does,
the way they are acting to a degree, especially Papa.
Jack Lemmon's like the most real person in this
Yeah. But anyways, he tries to go, hey, you don't want this apartment, come over here. And it's like, is it up? No, it's down. And they go down to the apartment.
I gotta watch the movie again. It's so fucking good.
I watched it twice already. I watched it again last night before
I did not know
we came home, and I watched it again. So we haven't gone through everything yet. Everyone needs to see My Sister Eileen, because I really, really like
it.
Anyways.
I'm breaking my 3-star thing. 4.
It's 4?
All the fucking way. There's nothing in this movie I didn't love.
So,
and I'm going to say 3.5. But I can almost guarantee if I just keep watching it,
you know what?
It'll be a 4-star movie.
So I'm with you on that. So I'm a 3.5 right now, but down the line I might give it a 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a phenomenal, fantastic, fun movie. Anyways, getting ahead of ourselves, of course, like every episode.
No, let's go on to the next movie.
So, anyways, they get this apartment, and I love the scene when they're, everything's breaking. The door handle's coming off, and the kitchen. Oh, here's the kitchen. He opens it up, closes it. Here's the bathroom. Opens it, closes it.
Oh yeah.
They're like, wait a minute. Let's see this place.
They're building the subway.
Yeah.
Underneath.
She leaves, and all of a sudden, it looks like an earthquake. I don't know how they did this effect. Because the whole room
the entire
shakes.
fucking set moves.
It's so great. And then they're like, oh my God. And they go on, they're like, the room was going. It's like, oh, they're just blasting underneath. You won't even notice it after.
And I'm like, it's bullshit. By the end of this movie, where they've lived there for a month, they don't even care.
Yeah, they don't even care.
No, whatever.
Yeah.
Blasting, sure.
And then there's a neighbor played by Dick York, who's fucking awesome.
Oh God, he's
movie.
so good in this.
Dick York is from Bewitched.
He has his own character arc. And I loved it.
Actually, he's probably the best male character in the movie, because not once does he hit on them.
He doesn't hit. He actively does acknowledge that they're beautiful.
But he never
has
hits
a
on
girlfriend, and he's like, oh yeah, you're going to get to
Well, his girl's pretty hot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a movie. It's a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, Eileen's going to go to like an audition. He goes, well, the only reason you wouldn't get the part is if a woman just hates you. Okay? That's the only reason I come up with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then when they're going to go out doing their thing, both Papa and Dick York are like, they sing that song, you're great, but no one knows it. Da, 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 da.
And it's a fucking awesome song.
It's so funny because when they're like, now you say it. We're great. No one knows it. And
I want to watch this movie over and over.
It's so funny.
This is one of my new favorite fucking movies.
Yeah. I'm so happy you like it, because me too.
I love this fucking movie out of nowhere.
Yay. Yeah, this was a huge surprise.
Never even heard of this fucking movie.
Yeah, well, I knew about it. I don't know why it's not on people's lists.
You just heard about it as a Jack Lemmon, early Jack Lemmon.
But why? I don't know why it's not on people's list. So we haven't even gotten into the dancing in this movie.
Oh my God, the dance off, the first dance, the real
hold on.
I'm
get there in a second.
I have to fucking...
So the two love interests, so Janet Leigh, she meets Frank Lippincott, played by Bob Fosse. You know who Bob Fosse is?
Yeah, I saw him in the credits, and I'm like, this has got Fosse dancing? All right.
And he choreographed it as well. And he's in it, yeah.
If you know Fosse dancing, you're like, oh, that is Fosse dancing. And it's not just that. The people who are doing the Fosse dancing, the ones who go all the way, because I don't think Janet Leigh is particularly...
Oh, she does just fine.
She does fine, but there's the two guys. There's the big dance when they're just together and they're like waiting on Eileen and her.
So
they
that
dance
guy,
off. Oh, my dance is so fucking awesome.
So she meets Bob Fosse's character, and he's like trying to get her auditions and stuff. Well, there's this other guy named Chick, played by Tommy Rale. He was one of the brothers in Seven Brides, so he's also a dancer. So he's
makes sense.
Right,
That's what happens when you can dance.
So he ends up being a big piece of shit.
Which is why this movie's awesome.
Yeah, because Dick York gets him. That was awesome. I was like, yeah, Dick York comes. Here he comes.
Dick York is a wrestler in this movie.
When he's
a pro football player wrestler. He is the quote-unquote bruiser. He is bigger than the other guys.
The scene when
he isn't like what we think
when he's trying to kick the bag, and then she pulls him.
It's a great gag. It's a...
Anyways, so Bob Fosse like sends like, hey, I got this audition for you, and Chick Clark's like, hey, I know a guy who'll be the piano player or whatever. And so they walk her to it, and then while they're waiting for her, because they both are rivaling for Eileen's affection, and Bob Fosse and Tommy Rale, they have a dance-off. It's not a song. They have a dance-off where they're doing little hat tricks. They're doing flips. They're doing crazy shit. The Bob Fosse's choreography in this movie is so unique and so good. There's a scene where all four of them go out on the town and they go, hey, look at this bandstand, and they all pretend to play instruments, and the choreography where
they're like all drunk,
and but they're snapping their fingers. They are doing really unique things, very unique moves that you wouldn't see in normal musicals. And I think Bob Fosse was really innovative in that, coming up with different things. And it was so cool. And then there's a sweet dance number between Bob Fosse and Janet Leigh that's not as crazy as far as the dancing, but there's like little snappings and stuff. And it was very romantic.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We're like chugging along. We're an hour in the movie, and I'm like, I guess Jack Lemmon's not going to sing in this. Oh, here he comes.
He sings. He's fine.
Sing.
He's fine. He's fine. So Jack Lemmon's character plays Bob Baker, and he is a executive at some newspaper magazine. Or no, he's a magazine where he like publishes stories, right?
And they had sent one of Ruth's friends or publishers or something had sent stuff to him.
Because they're from Ohio.
Yeah, and like, go to New York, he'll get you a job.
So Betty Garrett goes there, and she's like, hey, wow, you wrote these romances? I thought you would look ugly, pretty much is what he would say. But
yeah, probably because
he said spinster is what he said.
He thinks that old ladies write these crazy romances in which...
I thought you'd be a spinster.
In which everything goes sour in the romance.
Yes. And so he says, well, why don't you write something you know about? So she writes, My Sister Eileen, a story.
The reason everything goes sour, because I have a hot sister who takes all the men.
Right. So he reads that, and he's like, wow, this is great. I bet you really do have a sister. And she's like, you know what? No. That's me. I'm Eileen.
I know. That's me, yeah.
Yeah. So now he's going, wow, I'm going to try to get with her.
I think he kind of knows already.
Right.
Kind of. He gets a little skeevy, but also I think he's also like... I think, because he's actively saying, the reason people can write well is because it's something they know. And you wrote this amazing.
I think he's trying to get to the bottom of it.
Part of that, yeah.
But anyway, so he has a song about him trying, and actually, as skeevy as it kind of is sometimes, it's funny. It's a funny musical number where he's going after her, and she's like, backing away, and then she opens up a door, and it's the bedroom, so let's go. That was pretty funny. But just her reaction to it, just to go back to Betty Garrett, her comic timing, she is such a great, and it's a pity she was only in a handful of films because she is so funny. She's so good. She's so talented.
She's fantastic.
She's so good in this movie. Yeah, she's good. I think she was in her mid-30s when she made this, and she's fantastic. If you've ever seen On the Town, she's the one that chases around Frank Sinatra, and it's fucking hilarious. She's just, come to my place, she's just going after him.
I've seen that, but I need to watch it again.
She's terrific in it, but she's great in this movie too. Janet Leigh is also really good, and playing something somewhat different. Usually she's more of a strong-willed person, and not that she's not strong-willed in this,
Marilyn Monroe,
but she's
like breathy voice thing,
and kind of, I wouldn't say ditzy, but naive.
Yeah,
and too trusting.
She actually knows walking around. Yeah, she'll just get stuff handed to her, and she's like. she doesn't. She knows she's going to get this stuff. She isn't going to like turn it down necessarily, but she isn't going to use it that strongly.
No.
If you want to, because her love interest has just been, he runs like the restaurant that she goes to, and she gets free meals.
The Walgreens. It was a Walgreens.
Yeah.
Soda. Jane was a soda jerk.
But back then, Walgreens had like a diner in it.
Bob Fosse's actually really good in the movie. Like he's fun. He's charming. Bob Fosse's character. I really liked him.
Oh, yeah.
Now I was reading a little bit about Bob Fosse about this because he ended up becoming he directed 5 movies starting in 1969.
Okay.
Cabaret, Sweet Charity, Lenny, all that jazz, and Star 80. All of them are great movies. I love all of them. And he wanted to be the next Fred Astaire. He wanted to be a star. And I am shocked that after this movie, a producer didn't see him in this and saw that he did his own choreography and go, let's fucking give him a contract to star and choreograph his own movie. Like, why didn't he become the next? Because after this, he ended up directing Broadway shows. So that's, I mean, maybe no. So he directed obviously Chicago was the big one. He did Chicago and Sweet Charity and all these stuff. But I'm like, he initially set out because he wanted to be a big movie star dancer like Fred Astaire. And he totally has the talent to do it. He's so good. What else? Oh, and then so the big finale of the movie. It gets so crazy.
It's so crazy. It's just a fucking entire Brazil Navy.
So what happens is Ruth wants to get a story, and so what Chick does, Chick calls up. Yeah, and he says, "Hey," he doesn't say that he's Chick. He's like, "Hey, I'm from the so and so newspaper. Come down to this the Navy shipyard and talk to the Brazilian Navy for us and for human interest story."
When Chick is introduced, Chick is supposed to be part of like a double date where Chick is Ruth's date.
Yeah.
But
he's just all over.
Just like every other instance.
I'm turning over your sister in my head all day. Yeah. That's what he says.
He's basically, Elaine is on a date with 2 guys and her sister's just there. Okay? Yeah. That's what's happening.
So anyways, at the end though, so she goes to the Navy thing to meet the Brazilian people. At the same time, Chick comes in and tries to essentially rape Janet Leigh. Right away she's like, "Rack!" Called Dick York.
When that happened,
I was cheering. I was like, yes!
Luckily, she happens to know a fucking wrestler friend, so nothing possible.
I was so excited. I was like, yeah, get him. I was literally cheering when that happened. I was like, yes, go get Dick York.
But then his storyline goes weird because because she starts crying because she was almost raped.
So he
just hugs her. And it's the most innocent thing you've ever fucking seen.
And his girlfriend sees it.
And his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mother both see this.
Who didn't know that she was in a relationship.
They didn't even know because she was. Just fucking see the movie. Yeah. There's a bunch of shit that happens in this fucking movie, and it's all amazing.
So the ending, the big finale ends with her going to the shipyard, and then the Brazilian Navy sees her, is definitely attracted to Betty Garrett, and starts chasing her.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like an old cartoon. And they chase her to her house.
They see literally this entire ship's worth. By the time she gets there,
there's 6 left.
I lost most of them on the subway.
So 6 of them come into the house, and then they see Eileen, and then they're all over Eileen, of course.
Yeah.
But they're
still also all over her. But they have no issues.
Well, then Papa comes and tries to help them out.
Got to use their dicks,
right?
Okay.
Well, Papa comes out and tries to help them out, but then
because he can speak.
But then someone says conga, and boom, they lose their shit, and they start doing the conga line.
Say the word conga, apparently.
And then there's another really great dance sequence going back where they're pulling her back and forth, and they're going underneath their knees, their legs.
They use the conga to escape.
Oh, it's and then there's a there's a running gag in the movie where apparently the person that had their place before was a prostitute. They say tarot card reader.
Yeah.
She entertained people.
Yes.
So
and the cops actively see 2 attractive
women. And they're like, we don't do this down here.
Keep it clean down
here. When the conga thing's going on, people look and they're like, hey, it's a conga. Everybody goes in.
The entire fucking neighborhood.
And then the cop sees that and is like, holy shit, what the fuck? He thinks like it's an orgy or something. So he heads down there. He arrests them. And so now they're in jail.
That's right. They're in fucking jail for a while.
Yeah. And then they get out of jail because the Brazilian Navy is like, let's pardon them. So then,
only lets this girlfriend
Oh,
out
because he knows the captain. He's like, hey, could you...
can you leave the mother-in-law in there?
When she's like, bye, Mom!
It's so silly.
Mom, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, Jack Lemmon shows up and he's like, he apologizes and says, I like you, your sister's beautiful, but I want you.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, he's like, yeah, you're beautiful. Your sister's born beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. You're like,
and he kisses her, and that's a great kiss.
Well, here's the thing. That's the weird thing about this movie. She gets her job and gets the man.
Yeah.
Of course, Eileen gets the man. She's fucking Eileen.
Yeah.
She doesn't get a job.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, she
doesn't have an acting job or anything. Her whole story hasn't like completely come around.
No. So yeah, I thought that was cool. But and then it ends with the Brazilian people are there, and they're all apologizing, and they give them some medals or whatever, and then they mention conga again, and boom, there's a big conga.
All I said was the word conga,
and they go crazy.
Conga!
And then the end of the movie, and that's it. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I love this movie.
I had no inkling.
No, me too.
About this movie.
I
didn't know who I thought Eileen was going to be Jack Lemmon's sister.
Yeah,
okay?
This was directed by Richard Quinn. He directed a lot of movies. He made like 5, 6, 7 movies with Jack Lemmon.
Oh, okay.
And he also started Blake Edwards' career. Blake Edwards started writing for
I saw
Richard
Blake
Quinn.
Edwards was
and
part
so
of the
Blake
screenplay.
Edwards started directing movies shortly after this, or even the same year. I think he did a movie called Bring Smile Along or something.
This movie there's so many things in this movie we didn't even mention.
No,
that are just
absolutely. So
joyous.
I do one of my favorites. I'm going through my notes early in the movie when Betty Garrett is putting on her makeup and she goes outside. And the kid sees her. Hi, Mom! Because the kid sees her in the makeup and it's all all the shit on her face.
Like doing her beauty regimen. Yeah.
Right. So seeing that,
Nick York makes like this weird thing, this joke, because he's out of work.
Yeah.
So he's doing all the whole housework.
Yeah.
But not sewing. That's woman's work.
But
he does
laundry.
He does laundry. He's like doing all the other things that are typically at the time called women's work, and I'm like, I think he just can't sew. Okay?
No.
I think that's he just doesn't know how to sew. I think that's 100% that.
And we haven't talked about a lot of it, but Betty Garrett has so many one-liners in the film, and she's just so hip. And it's kind of reminded me of a little bit of how Jane Russell's one-liners in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. But
dude, this movie.
If this movie,
so fucking fun.
In 3 Coins at the Fountain, if you would have put Janet Leigh, Betty Garrett, and some musical numbers in that movie, holy shit, I would have loved that movie.
It could have been awesome. And you said this is a remake for original. I wonder if that's even anything worth trying.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
But here's the thing. I want to just watch that dance number.
There's 4 big dance numbers. They're all good.
I can watch from the beginning to end and enjoy the entire thing. It's all fun.
So,
and then the dance numbers are just part of the fun.
Well, last night, I'm like, I want to watch it, but I'll watch a little bit of it. And I watched the whole fucking thing. I'm like, holy shit, I can't stop watching it. It is so good. But yeah, it's so close to a 4. Like, I almost want to give it a 4.
I think it's one of those ones.
But it's a 3.5.
Ask me after I've watched it 3 more times in the next 6 months. It might be more.
And again, I didn't know how you.
After I show this to people, this is a movie.
Yeah.
This is we've discovered other movies here.
The Gazebo.
Yeah. And I would happily watch The Gazebo.
Yeah. I want to show this one.
But if I now get anybody who asks me, just tell me when we should watch My Sister Eileen.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to say.
It's so, and I can't believe. So I went back and I was looking at reviews and I was looking at like audiences reviews, like on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're all like, it's an okay musical with some good dancing. And I'm like,
this movie is gay.
It is so good.
It's good. She's lying to him, but it legitimately comes back to haunt her and stuff. All these things, which is what I want in a movie.
I loved it. I thought it was so good and so entertaining.
Yay,
movie. My Sister Eileen. Okay.
I love this movie.
Well, then we had to see another movie at midnight.
Let's talk about the next movie.
To Hell and Back. It's sure World War II movie.
Here's the thing about To Hell and Back.
Yeah.
This is one of those important movies.
Yeah.
Because of fucking Audie Murphy.
Yeah.
And if you read the story about what Audie Murphy and all that shit, boy, I wish this movie made me feel like any of that shit meant anything.
Well, it's funny because we just got done watching this musical where I'm just like, oh my god, and then I'm like, oh, we gotta sit through To Hell and Back.
To Hell and Back. Here's the thing. This is from 1955.
Yeah.
I knew going in, this is a war movie about insanity shit that this guy did.
Yeah.
But also I knew this isn't going to be as dark as it should be.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No.
If you made this movie now about the
it's
shit
gonna
that
be more of
a... you would leave that theater bawling your fucking eyes out.
This is more of a rah-rah, America's Greats, whatever, kind of thing. Audie Murphy, he lives on a farm with his family, and his dad's not there. But so he's got what, 5 brothers and sisters?
He's got a bunch. His dad has abandoned him. Yeah.
And so his mom ends up dying, but he drops out of school to be the head of the family or whatever.
Essentially.
Working for a farmer. And
he has an older sister who's moved away.
Yeah.
And she helps to get him in the army.
Right. So then eventually, he's like, hey, I'm going to go to the army, because this farmer, the guy he works for, says, he said, hey, you should go to the army.
Join the service, because he wants to join the Marines.
Right.
And then he's going to join the
Navy.
And then the Navy shits on him.
They all say, go to the army. Go to the army.
Isn't the Navy like the poor man's bullshit army?
But then, soon as they go to it, they're all like, oh, he's the acting sergeant. I'm like, what? Did I miss something?
You did. You missed the fact that Audie Murphy moved up the ranks pretty quick.
Because it was like, what? There was like a reel was missing. I was like, what?
It's weird. This has biopic-itis to a degree.
Yes, absolutely, okay. Yeah. And biopic-itis means it jumps around and you don't know where you're at time frame sometimes.
It's like,
you're just like, what's going on?
He's in the army. Oh. It starts off where actually there's a younger version of Audie Murphy.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And that guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then Audie Murphy shows up, and that 33-year-old guy is now 15. Okay, whatever. Yeah. He plays himself. It makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and Audie Murphy, he's fine.
He's fine.
He's a fine actor.
He was an attractive guy who ended up in the news a lot because he won every award that you could ever fucking imagine.
He's subtle for his acting is probably an understatement. Like, he's really subtle with his acting. In fact, so subtle that at times it seems like he's a supporting character in his own film.
Well, here's the thing. We should probably talk about Audie Murphy before we talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because there's a lot of people who have never fucking heard of him.
Yeah, Audie Murphy.
Because if you're a younger person, we have heard of him because we're older.
Yeah.
If you're a younger person, Audie Murphy in World War II was the most decorated anybody.
Yeah.
And I think on either side.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think he might be the number one in American history.
Yeah.
If you watch this movie, you will see shit at the end of it that will look like, well, that's just dumb. That never happened. That fucking happened.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
The shit where he didn't die and you don't understand why he's not dead?
Yeah.
Correct. Somehow he just didn't die.
Yeah.
Okay? He killed so many fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay?
He sure did. Yeah. And so what they did is then he made a book. Made his own book to Hell and Back.
Yeah, well,
and so
ghostwritten, it says right there.
Right,
it doesn't make sense. He's not. He wrote songs later.
6 years after the book, then they made this movie directed by Jesse Hibbs, who I'm not really familiar with. It's also in CinemaScope, so the widescreen photography looks nice.
Yeah.
It's mainly most of it though. He meets a bunch of like soldiers and stuff. So you got like the one guy that's really into the girls. You got the one guy. I mean, they're all kind of the archetypes.
There's a Native American guy named Chief. And I'm like, I wonder if that was real, or if it was just saying, we're gonna make a war movie.
Right? Yeah. I wonder how much was like Hollywood upped, or how would it's just a series. It's not really a linear plot. It's just more of a series of events, just sporadically of like, this is when he did this thing. This is when he went over here and met this Italian girl and banged her. And this is when he went.
Yeah, I guess he banged her, I guess. I mean, it's Hollywood, so we're assuming in real life he pounded on her. But they show like some earlier combat he's in, and then he gets promoted again. He just repeatedly gets promoted. And then Murphy, you're now a sergeant. And he's like, God damn it. I'm like...
Well, then it was funny, because then when he becomes, like, the lieutenant, he makes everyone else like, okay, you're the corporal, you're the sergeant.
Yeah, the first person to shit on him for a promotion, he goes, oh, good job, sergeant. Oh, no! Why did I say anything? I mean, that shit's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. So, I would say the first half of the movie, I mean, I kind of like the beginning. First half of the movie, I'm just kind of like, man, it's just jumping all over. I don't know what's happening. But the last, 45 minutes has some pretty awesome war scenes in the film.
For 55.
Yeah.
There's some blood.
But the scenes where, they're battling the tanks.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorites is when probably my favorite scene in the movie, that 20-minute extended scene where there's, they're in that field, and then there's, that, barn or farm thing that they're at, and the Nazis are in there, and they have to go in there and get them.
Yeah.
And when he goes in there, there's that scene where the Nazi shuts the door, and he goes with the machine gun, and then the door opens. You see the Nazi go down. I'm like, holy shit, that was awesome.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool.
There was some cool action.
This movie was hugely successful.
Yeah,
because this has shit. You watch a movie,
yeah,
and sometimes the shit in it is so stupid, and
yeah.
that never happened. The stupid shit in this movie fucking happened, and if anything, it was crazier than in this fucking movie.
I'm sure it was. So I thought some of the action stuff. So I was kind of getting more into some of the action stuff at the end. The way it's written, I don't think it's necessarily Audie Murphy's fault as an actor. Though, you know, he's not the most charismatic actor, but he's playing himself. Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought just how everything is written, it was really hard for me to get totally involved, totally engaged into everything. It was just more like, oh, this is when he did this. I think I would have liked it if this was actually done like a book, as in chapters. Like, hey, this is when this thing happened. Oh, this is when this thing happened. Instead of trying to make it a whole story that connects. Because nothing really
it's
connects.
It's an hour and 40 minutes long, and I'm like... There's a good section in the beginning where he's not even in the army.
Yeah.
And I'm like, boy, I happen to know for a fact he does a lot of shit in the fucking army, and they got to cram that in like an hour.
So, while I'm watching it, like, especially towards the end, I'm like, I was kind of appreciating the filming of some of the action scenes.
Oh, there's some shit that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Some of the because the army was very much in on this because he's fucking Audie Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
So they said, sure, you want some tanks? Here's 8 of them. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some pretty impressive stuff into the movie and stuff. But it does have that kind of U.S. rah-rah-rah stuff that I'm just not a big fan of, really.
Yeah, but I mean, for an Audie Murphy, for this stage of an Audie Murphy movie, here's the thing. If you make an Audie Murphy biopic now, the shit... Because Audie Murphy went through horrible PTSD.
Yes.
Nightmarish. Which is why, in some of this, I'm watching and I'm like, he literally had to do that shit again?
Yeah.
He had to fucking take a fucking fake machine gun.
Yeah.
He threw a grenade.
Mm-hmm.
It killed a bunch of these Nazis that were in this bunker. His idiot friend gets up and celebrates, gets shot, and he goes down, and the guy's last words are just, Murph.
Yeah.
He's asking a question. All the guy says is Murph, and then keels over, and I'm like, I guarantee that's what fucking happened. And that just...
that was really good.
That was like the best acting in the movie was when Audie Murphy, they close in on his face, and I'm like, he's legitimately really fucking sad and pissed at the same time.
Yeah.
And so he goes up there. Those guys in that bunker are dead. He grabs the entire fucking giant bunker machine gun, pulls it out, goes to 2 other bunkers and just slaughters them all.
That was totally Rambo.
Like, holy shit!
That was total Rambo.
That was totally Rambo, and it was totally like, that's what he fucking did.
That's fucking crazy.
That's fucking, and the thing is, having recently, before this, I read up on Audie Murphy, and
I did not.
I happen to know for a fact, that's only the second most badass thing he does in the fucking army. Because it happens later on where he fucking goes on a complete insane rampage and kills so many fucking guys. Yeah. And he's like running at them. Yeah. And they're just fucking missing. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense. And it fucking happened. Yeah. And I wish this movie was fucking better.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible. No, it's boring as fuck until you actually are like, okay,
I would say
Audie Murphy is a badass.
The first half, the first hour of the film, I'm like, but the last third of the film has some cool stuff in it. I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
I'm gonna give it
because I think
2.5 sounds.
I was at a 2
I kind of want to go to a 2.
I was at a 2 until the last half, and then I actually liked.
I guess I'll go 2.5. But the thing is, I want to see the movie that takes place after he's out of the army. Because he becomes a fucking legit movie star. Yeah. And his first successful movie is a Western directed by a German guy. And apparently that is some of the most like awkward shit.
That would be
it's like a Western from like 1950, which we could end up seeing.
But that would be an interesting movie. Like I would love to see a movie about him like being a movie star.
Yeah, he's
like,
trying
that would be cool.
That would be cool. Also legitimately, it's like he's discovered by somebody. Who discovers him? I can't remember who discovers him. But,
Murphy,
well, he mostly just told him...
He died in 1971 at the age of 45.
Yeah, he died in a plane crash, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, died in a plane crash. He wasn't very old. Him and like a bunch of other people on that plane. Yeah, it sucks. The small planes are a fucking nightmare. Do not get on them.
No.
You are fucking going to die. People talk about how air flight is the safest. I'm like, no, big commercial jet airliners are safe as fuck. Just go to the Associated Press and type in plane crash, and you will find out, oh shit, these small ones crash all the time. They don't even make the fucking news because they're so fucking often. Okay, they crash all the time. People just die on the left and right, and then periodically famous people are on it, so they put it in the news.
So that's our 7 movies that we did. So best movie for you is going to be My Sister Eileen.
Oh, yeah, and for you,
it's 7 Brides.
You're a bad person.
But my sister Eileen is really close. I love Seven Brides.
Okay,
I love Seven
I
Brides.
understand. That's fine.
Both of them are great. Seven Brides, Seven Brothers.
I had forgotten that there was even a chance that anything could beat Mr. Eileen for you.
That's also why I watched my sister Eileen again too, because I'm like, I gotta see.
Damn it!
But it is really good.
So fucking phenomenal.
And I've seen Seven Brides a bunch of times, but I also watched that another time too, because I wanted to make sure.
Oh, you watched it? You watched it twice since I saw it.
I watched both. Well, yesterday I watched both Seven Brides and my sister's.
One extra time after we sat in that movie theater together.
Yes. I wanted to watch them both again just to make sure. But yeah, they're both fantastic. But for me, my sister Eileen kind of has an edge just because I knew about it, and at the most I thought it'll be a mild 3-star. At the worst, it'll be a 2. And when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, this movie's fantastic.
This movie is so fucking good.
The music...
But here's the thing.
Well,
that's my biggest surprise.
Yeah.
But that's only because it was after CINERAMA Holiday, which I assumed, well, that's my biggest surprise. I thought this would be a boring... It's a boring snooze fest for like the last third of it. Yeah. But that first hour is like...
It's really good.
This movie's fucking really cool.
It was really cool.
But then I saw a much better movie.
My sister... Oh my God, my sister Eileen's so good. And I don't... And again, I already said this before. I can't believe... that when people are talking, like film historians are talking about old musicals, this needs to be talked about. Because I think the Bob Fosse dancing is so good. But even besides that, I think the movie's very funny.
The movie's fun.
But
there's legit cool shit that happens. There's other people.
And this wasn't an MGM musical. So this is this is a non-MGM musical.
So this wasn't in That's Entertainment until the third one where they finally folded in some of the other studios.
Right. So yeah, That's Entertainment where they showed like the best stuff, but this needs to be shown with that clips of the best musicals.
I saw that, and I've seen That's Entertainment, and so when that happened, I'm like, why have I never seen this?
This is probably I would put this on the list of best musicals. It's so good.
It's really good. That first dance-off thing when they were doing that, they were literally just outside and they start dancing and. That one chick is being kind of a hoity-toity weirdo with his hat, and the other guy is learning to do it. And he's immediately just as good as him, and they just fully start fucking dancing off.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, Bob Fosse is fucking awesome, and you're not gonna beat him.
So best lead performance by an actor.
Oh, Jesus criminy.
I mean, there isn't that many as far as lead.
By a dude, right? Is what
I would say I'm going to give it to Cary Grant.
Cary Grant is really good.
He's just classy.
I mean, I didn't hate Kirk Douglas as much as you.
I didn't. Yeah, it's Kirk Douglas.
I'm looking at the other movies.
I mean, Audie Murphy.
Audie Murphy is not going to be up there. There's
not Howard Keel.
There's the one scene where he legit looks mad because his friend has just died and literally his last words were Murph. I'm like, holy fuck. I wish this movie was better because that should hit harder. It only hit me hard because I'm like, that's what fucking happened.
Yeah.
And I just fucking watched it. And it was kind of boring.
Cary Grant, maybe?
Probably Cary Grant because he's the only one. I mean, I could be weird to say Kirk Douglas, but Kirk Douglas,
Howard Keel.
It's hard to gauge him because of the weird voiceover thing.
I thought he did pretty good as far as that is concerned. But best actress. So man, that's hard because I really like Grace Kelly, but Betty Garrett.
It's Betty
Garrett for you.
Betty Garrett. It's Betty Garrett.
I'm gonna say Grace Kelly.
Well, that's fine. You're allowed to like the hot.
But Betty Garrett was really good.
No, Betty Garrett is that movie just was so oh my god, that movie was so fucking good.
Supporting actor, we could do Bob Fosse.
I think
but I might do.
Good.
But I might do.
How old was he in that movie?
He was 28. He looks older, but
does he look older? Yeah, I thought he looked younger. That's because I'm an old man.
I want to say I kind of like Dick York.
Or
really even Kirk Casner as Papa.
God, actually, I'm going to have to go with Kirk Casner.
Oh, as Papa?
God, he's so funny. And right off the bat, they're looking for a different apartment, and he convinces them to go over here and rent from him instead. That place, they act like it's expensive. And the price he says
$65
is that was free. I mean, it's 55, but it's still New York.
Yeah, I'll probably give it to Kirk Casner as well. Yeah. It's really good. Supporting actress, I mean, I guess Janet Leigh's kind of the co-lead.
They're kind of they're co-leads.
Co-leads.
And she's still good at it and stuff.
I guess supporting actress. Supporting actress. I give it to Jessie Roy Landis for the mom and To Catch a Thief.
Yes,
she's awesome in it.
She's awesome.
I would give it to her.
I have to agree. It's almost certainly that.
Okay, here's one. Since we have enough of these, best dance sequence.
Oh, the dance off
in Seven Brides.
Yeah.
Followed by that dance. Which dance off? The dance off.
The hat dance off. The one.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
The one where they're waiting outside. So that's the girls have gone inside.
Yeah.
I can say girls because in that movie they call all women girls and they call all men boys in the entire fucking movie.
So in My Sister Eileen, the dance off in that.
Yes.
So I'm going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, you're right. Actually, it might be Seven Brides.
I'm going to the dance off. That's what I mean. Which dance off? Because they're both good.
Oh, I watched so many good dancing.
I would say Seven. I'm going to give it Seven Brides, but it's that dance off.
I'm going to stick with my Sister Eileen just because when that happened, it blew me so far away. I'm like, holy fuck! What just happened? Did I just watch that? Oh my god! I was the second time I had goosebumps.
This was a pretty good. You liked 5 of these movies.
I gave a lot of 3 stars.
This might be the episode you've liked the most.
That's the weird thing. I also
like the most movies.
I didn't know what you would think about Ulysses.
Yeah, I didn't care for it.
Actual interest in the Odyssey.
Yeah,
and how much it was strangely accurate to the Odyssey.
I was mostly thought it was dull, and I jumped around a lot. I'm just like, what's going on?
I mean, the Odyssey's long because it's called the fucking Odyssey,
right?
Okay.
Maybe if it was a big epic. I mean, I think they made
kind of tell the story in the same order. The Odyssey itself, I think, tells the story.
Well, I know in the 2000s,
I guess.
In the early 2000s or late 90s, they did an Odyssey TV movie with Arma DeSante.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think I ever saw it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. Again, if you want to follow us, we're on Instagram. You can listen to us on everything where you can get podcasts, and also if you want something to say or have a suggestion or disagree with us or have an opinion on anything, filmgeektimemachine@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and then we would share your message and email on the podcast.
Yes, we will talk about you.
Yes, we would.
Probably positively.
Maybe. We'll see.
Unless you really, really like one of the movies I hated.
Play It Against Sam. They're like, oh, Play It Against Sam.
I love that movie. Well, fuck you.
Or Tunnel Vision is a masterpiece. What are you talking about?
We both yell at him.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Austin Kennedy.
See you next time. Tim Kaiser.
See you next time.
I fucking already did it, asshole.
Bye-bye.